Hello and welcome, DFL fans. Alright, today we're doing something else. We finished up DCL with the final stream last week, and now the kind of tier 2 league, which is the DFL, Draft Farm League, is in playoffs. So we're going to be covering the playoffs. Just go ahead and link the stream in the appropriate places, and then we'll get going. I have a little bit of a treat for you guys today. We're going to start, give people a little bit of time to join the live stream, but we're starting with V versus Monkey Boy, which is not part of DFL, but it was just a funny game. This is part of the seasonal, if I'm I don't know, I'm just assuming that. I think it's probably right, but yeah, these guys are just a bunch of yappers, and I thought it'd be funny to start off the stream with their game, because yeah, it's fun. Alright, content, there we go. V Gaming, yep. So we're starting this a little bit of an appetizer before we get into the main event. What's up, Cineras? What's up, Toaster? Gopher. Alright. And unfortunately, I'm not joined by anyone today. Greg is at work, sadly, and Glop is sleeping because his sleep schedule is absolutely demolished right now. And yes, for him, it is 2:30 p.m. What can you do? I'll send him a message just in case he's up, but I'm pretty sure he's asleep. Starting now. I don't know. Looks like his Discord is maybe online. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe. Sleepy Glopper. Yeah. I don't know if he pulled an all-nighter or something, but it's tough out there on the streets. Oh, it's V versus Monkey Boy, two of the biggest yappers ever. Let's look at this game just to enjoy it. I think the chat will be part of the allure to this game. Alright, rocks up and a U-turn from Unnerved Corviknight. No, this is not. This is the Appetizer Ultraviolet. We'll get there. So we just sack our Jirachi turn 2 like a beast. So that was awesome from Monkey Boy. And Biggest Yaptors is a crazy title hold. I mean, I don't say it lightly. Your dunk is up there, yeah. So we sacked Jirachi for fun. Now Rotom, obviously going to switch into this Torn. DFLV. This is not DFL, this is just the Appetizer. We're just looking at this as a warm-up game. It's just fun. This was the seasonal, yes. Alright, Darkrai comes in to force out the Terra Fairy guy, so this is the most obvious Sludge Wave ever. Or Hypnosis, that works too. But Ting Lu, you're going to see here, he's prepared. So Life Orb Ice Beam is going to be a 3-hit KO, but the Sleep Talk Whirlwind gets that Darkrai out of there, and now Blaziken's in. But like, okay, Gengar's the switch in on a Protect. Does Gengar live a Flare Blitz? It's leftovers Blaziken, so it's not boosted. We see a double out to Quaquaval as we Protect again for out of respect. I don't know, covering for Scarf Gengar maybe. But now Quaquaval comes in, Aqua Steps the Rotom Rotom Ghost and just goes down. Now Garchomp comes in. This could have Ice Spinner or Triple Axle, and it looks like it is the Protective Pad, so gonna kill the Garchomp without taking any of that recoil damage. It's okay, we have a Corviknight, which is Boots, so it'll live this Aqua Step and kill this Quaquaval with a Brave Bird. Never mind, we're gonna Roost up, and then we're gonna Taunt on the next Roost. No, on a Defog. Okay. Wait, there's a lot of chat. We need to read this. That's a lot of chat. Defog. Rocks for the concern. Yep. Alright, we just yapping. Bro loaded 0-6 to Quack. Yeah, I'm looking at... And it's Body Press last. So, like, we really just don't want to win. I'm guessing the plan here was... We're just gonna trade HP with Garchomp Helmet, but it's pads, bruh. The Ogerpon comes out, dies immediately to Aqua Step. Love that. The full health Corv does not beat this Quaquaval. Plan for Quack, don't let it quack. Yeah, if you bring in Sturdy Ogerpon, but then like you bait a Triple Axle, but then you Terra, and you get the Sturdy, you remove the Sturdy, but you get the +1 defense and you shed the ice weakness. That's probably what he was going for, but like yeah. So guys, that's the start, the introduction of the stream, and now we can get on to the main event. So V getting absolutely thrashed by Quaquavel. And now we can get into DFL semifinals. We're going to start with this series, which is the Ivy League Cudgels versus the, what is it? The Doom Desires. Yeah. So we have a level 99 Corviknight on the screen, which is quite funny. The Doom Desires are going to be on the bottom side, and the Ivy League Cudgels are going to be on the top side for this series. Alright. And Glop has not responded to me. I think he's probably still asleep. It is what it is. Level 99. So I'm actually curious. Let me see. If I look at Lynn's team, is there a Corviknight mirror here? I'm looking at this and I don't see a Corviknight on the other side, which makes me wonder, why is this level 99 Corviknight? I could not tell you. Because like the reason would be like a slower U-turn in the mirror, but I don't see a mirror. Nothing even close to the speed range, so that'll be a mystery. Solely for Aura. I thought there would be a bench core just from that existing, but turns out the answer is no. I don't know. I really don't. This is DFL, guys. And yeah, so the Terra types, we're going to see a Zarude for Beardy. That's going to be Terra Dark. And then on the other side, we see an Electric Hydrapple. So let's get right into it. I'm going to see Sneasler lead off into Mesprit. Sneasler looking quite threatening in this team. Qwilfish, that HP is not infinite, although it does have Pain Split. Qwilfish is kind of an opportunity to spike up with the Garchomp, so by leading Sneasler, I'm thinking maybe this is either a Choice Band set or like, maybe it's Boots with like U-turn. Look, Owen, what do you want me to say? Can you explain why he's level 99 Corv? I don't know. But anyways, Sneasler leading off like this makes me think it might be Choice Banded, might be Choice Scarf. Choice Scarf would make sense into the Darkrai. You want to have something faster that can one-shot it, so Sneasler kind of fits that bill, as well as outspeeds a +1 Dragonite with like pretty decent attacks, although Deoxys also does that job with a very strong hitting Ice Beam. So yeah, I'm looking at this actually. Deoxys is a kind of a major threat, especially if this Mesprit takes a big fat CB U-turn here, or even a Scarf U-turns, like still. It's going to be, you know, in range of Deoxys pretty soon. And we do see a U-turn, and that looks like Scarf damage against physically defensive Mesprit, if I had to guess. Might be mixed defense, but we see rocks go up, and then a T-Bolt. So Beardy going to take this as an opportunity to get even more chip on the Mesprit and get the slow momentum out into Zarude, which is going to take rocks, so it's not Boots, it is revealing Leftovers. Level 99 was to underspeed, no speed Hydrapple. Huh. Interesting. Why would you want to be slower? To U-turn, I guess? But I feel like I'd rather just be faster and taunt it, you know? Either way. Okay, that's the answer. That's the answer we were looking for. I guess level 99 is the highest you can get to be slower than Hydrapple. But Zarude is on the field, threatening a knockoff here. This Mesprit could be Colberberry, could be like T-Wave or something to make this Zarude a little bit punished. But yeah, that creates more questions. It does a little bit. Oh my god. Do you see what this Zarude just clicked? Alright, we're getting nasty out here. And Zarude with Nasty Plot is going to annihilate this Qwilfish. So obviously Qwilfish being one of the more reasonable answers to like a physical Zarude, which the vast majority of them are, this is actually turning the tables on the Qwilfish matchup. This Intimidate, completely useless, and now something has to switch into this +2 Dark Pulse. And nothing's gonna like it. Mesprit is going to just be sacked off to this. The Colberberry does come out, but obviously not enough there. And Zarude is back at full at +2. Darkrai comes in, goes for the Focus Blast, which is going to do a lot of damage. Is that Life Orb? It is Life Orb. But the Giga Drain comes out, gets a little bit of HP back, but obviously not going to one-shot the Darkrai because Zarude does not have that dog in him. Alright, we're going to see a pivot to Sneasler. Ooh, a notification. XHYS just subbed. Appreciate that, man. But Sneasler are going to take the opportunity to pivot into a Darkrai. You're never clicking a Psychic in that position. It's always going to be a Focus Blast, or at worst case an Ice Beam, which is, you know, what we switched into. Would have preferred a Focus Blast, but still. This does signal a Scarf Sneasler even more, although we could already kind of piece that together with context clues. And so Darkrai... Hold on. We didn't U-turn. Okay, so we don't want to U-turn into a Rocky Helmet Quillfish, which is what we're expecting. But we did see the Sneasler switched before the Darkrai, so it is confirmed Scarf Sneasler. So good to know. But now Corviknight in on the Quillfish is going to get taunted, cannot defog these rocks away, and now the spikes are going up. 2 layers for 0 layers, and the Corviknight takes even more chip from the Rocky Helmet, although the Citrus Berry, shout out to J. Ricky, does heal it up. No Helm, right? It is Helm. Just showed it. But now Garchomp can come in, and this is going to force out the Quillfish more likely than not. Probably going to be into a Hydrapple here, seems pretty reasonable, as you expect an Earthquake or a Hazard to come out. As Darkrai comes in on the sack, but it is in before Rock. So nice aggressive play from Lynn. I guess if you're not confident in your ability to spin, this makes sense. Get your Darkrai in one last time and fire off that Ice Beam. We're probably going to see a Corviknight sack. It's already pretty low and will eat up the 2 Life Orb hits to 1v1 this Darkrai. And yeah, there we go. The Ice Beam is going to freeze, but that doesn't matter, I don't think, as a Dark Pulse is going to knock it out either way. And Darkrai goes down to that. And now, I mean, it's 5v4, but the hazard advantage is very real. Now Hydrapple comes in, you want to find an opportunity to get your Terra off sooner rather than later. And yeah, Zarude is in one more time. Gonna go for a Jungle Healing, but I think this might be a misplay as you're not out healing a Fickle Beam at all, so gonna have to go for a Dark Pulse eventually. There we go. And the next Fickle is gonna knock it out. Now Deoxys comes in. Interesting enough, this Hydrapple has not Terra'd yet. So I assume it's in range of a Psycho Boost, unless it's like Spit F AV, which that Dark Pulse did too much for it to be Spit F AV, so yeah, Lazarude, yeah man, cool. Exactly. So this Hydrapple is going to be forced out here, but what's the switch into Deoxys? You don't really have one. Maybe you could justify sacking the Quillfish, because your Dragonite can now check the Sneasler, and that's the main job Quillfish had anyways. It loses to everything else. I guess Quillfish is also reasonable into Enam, but you have a Treads for that, so all of its jobs are kind of done by the other things, the more important pieces. So I'd expect to see a Quillfish sack here, and there it is. Do we see a greedy Spikes from the Deoxys? That would be kind of crazy. But no, it's just the safe Psycho Boost, forcing a KO. Really reasonable stuff. No Life Orb, notably, on the Deoxys. So Hydrapple is going to come in, probably going to Terra here, guard against an Ice Beam, which is going to come out. And now goes for a nasty plot. Now this is pretty dangerous, because how are you breaking this Hydrapple? You need to sack something to allow free entry point for your Garchomp, and even then, it's not showing leftovers, it's not showing boots. It could very well be a Shuka Berry Hydrapple aimed at luring in and sniping that Garchomp with a Fickle Beam. We're going to see that Terra Blast on the Enam sack, and now the Garchomp comes in. Here's the question, is it Shuka Berry Hydrapple? And it is, oh my god. And the Garchomp, like we said, is just going to get annihilated by that Fickle Beam. But, I mean, this is now in range of Sneasler, at least. But the thing is, Beardy is really running out of tools, and this Sneasler, it has one more switch in after this maximum, and even like at this HP, it's in range of E-Speed. Deoxys can't switch in, so it's pretty simple for Lynn. Just sack the Hydrapple, E-Speed until you win. Seems pretty simple, and the Deoxys can't kill the Dragonite and then also, you know, kill the Iron Treads. Here we see a close comment, so no E-Speed on the Dragonite, interesting enough. No E-Speed is interesting, because now the Deoxys can Ice Beam and not take any chip. And maybe if this is like a bulky Treads, you can Superpower to it, KO it, but then you're dropping your defense, probably going to go down to Earthquake. Treads comes in. I feel like this is pretty locked up for Lynn. It would have to be the worst Tread set of all time. Maybe a special Tread set. Maybe something like Volt Switch, Spin, a Knockoff. Well, even Knockoff should be doing enough. And it's actually Scarf Treads, so it's going to outspeed and Oko the Deoxys from that range. So Lynn going to take that win over Beardy Dragons, and the Cudgels go up 1-0. We just kept the Zaruda and healing wished it back with the Enam, yeah. I mean, at what point did you have the time to healing wish your Zarude? And at the same time, it's special Zarude. It's not exactly OHKOing everything at +2. Sure, I thought you were trying to hint at the treads and not killing Deoxys. I haven't seen these games. Like, the vast majority of them, I haven't seen. I've seen a couple of them, but most of these I'm flying blind here. Did it even beat the apple? I'm pretty sure it just doesn't, because we saw Dark Pulse doing 30. Say you matched Nasty Plots, right? I mean, during that time that you're Nasty Plotting, the Hydra Apple is already Fickle Beaming you, and we saw that was doing 31 as well. So maybe if you both come in at neutral, the Zarude comes out on top, but if Hydra Apple has even just a 1-turn advantage, which I think it would, because you're not using Hydra Apple as your Zarude check, you're using Zarude as the Hydra Apple check. Either way, moot point, we can move on to game 2. And this is going to be Olivia versus ILC Fur Babies. Who is this? Now, unfortunately, the doc is a little bit broken. It doesn't show the semifinals matchups on there, but I can pull up the thread at least. So who is this? So Olivia versus, okay, this is Hanguini. Drizzle. Imagine as Zarude had knock. Yeah, or like any number of useful standard moves. Yeah. Surely we could bring a normal Zarude set and try to kill Quillfish with something else. Or, you know, just be a taunt Zarude, right? You can always taunt a Quillfish and it can't do anything back, really. Even just like SD in its face, right? And just be jungle healing, which we were already. Like, you just don't beat that with Quillfish. You can get a slow momentum, you can get maybe a helmet hit, but you're not 1v1ing it. Yeah. Alright, but anyways, game 2, Olivia versus Hanguini. Let's take a look at this. We see Fairy Tusk. Interesting. I do really enjoy Terra Tusk. I think it's really great in endgame positions, and kind of forces some prep that people might not want to bring otherwise. But on the other side, we do see a Terra Keldeo and a Terra Iron Moth, it looks like. Both of them going to be Terra Ghost. So that's a pretty powerful combination there. Amulet SD was a big threat. If that shit ran Animate, it was a good roll. It's just OHKO Quill. Yeah, exactly. It's like so good. But that's not the world we live in, sadly. Alright, Terra Keldeo versus Terra Tusk. Maybe Terra Moth, but we'll see. Right, let's get into the game. Metagross going to lead off into the Landorus. As a lead Metagross into this team, I don't think Shuka is the most likely. I would more so expect Auga Berry if it's like a Resist Berry. Maybe Colbur for the Meowscarada, but definitely not Shuka. So Metagross might have to get out of there. Or we're just going to trade rocks. Never mind. That did 75 to Lando, so not a bulky Lando at all, but rocks do go up. And Metagross not going to get them up itself. Okay, we're switching. Okay, on Bullet Punch. Into Fortress, which Metagross can't really do anything besides Meteor Beam. Oh, but it's not... It's not Power Herb. So now you can go Lando, get off the safest Earthquake ever, and down goes the Metagross. Bro. It's DFL, guys. It's DFL. Now Gren comes in. Going to go for an extra sensory. With Protean, it is going to knock it out. Also would have caught a potential Keldeo switch in, which if you have no data on the Gren set, could have been a pretty reasonable switch. We could see like AV Keldeo as a Gren check, something to take a Battle Bond hit, while also, you know, threatening the revenge with Vacuum Wave. Although Battle Bond Gren versus this team is definitely trolling. Like if you look at it, you have Keldeo Vacuum Wave, you have E-Speed, you have Scarf Meowscarada, way too many things to cover it. So Protean makes a lot of sense here. Hello chat, has the amazing Missouri Kip game been covered? It has not. We're on game 2 right now, so plenty of time. Where's that game? It is coming up in about 5 or so games, give or take. Anyways, Greninja takes that KO, and now Meowscarada gonna come in. And now Meowscarada, if it is Protective Pads, does have a very free knockoff here. So Enam is going to come in, takes rocks, but a free U-turn is also pretty reasonable. So Meowscarada going to go for that into the Iron Moth, which is on a balloon, which is pretty good information to have as the Great Tusk. And Sludge is going to come out and crit the Greninja immediately. I'm not sure if that mattered. I feel like that might be a roll, or it might just live barely. But either way, Greninja goes down, and now Zapdos is going to come in and take rocks, crucially. So what is this Zapdos set? It could be Assault Vest into this team. Assault Vest Zapdos does make a lot of sense. You're able to trade favorably versus stuff like Moth versus Keldeo. But I could also definitely see a Rocky Helmet versus the Meowscarada. Just like make sure that it's forced to run not Scarf, like protective pads. This is kind of an interesting thing here, right? If it's protective pads, then it can't check Bond Gren. But like you have plenty of Bond Gren answers, so more likely than not it's going to be pads. There's a roll to die there, and the crit made us pretty sad. I just pretend he got the roll. Whatever, man. Alright, now Dragonite's going to come in on Agility Zapdos. Okay. So this is an offensive Zapdos? Then T-Bolt does 26. It's Life Orb. Wow. So this is specially defensive Dragonite? Maybe even AV? Like 26 is nothing from a Life Orb Zapdos. And Ice Beam, going to put this in E-Speed range if you want to go for that. Risks the static, but you don't have to take an extra T-Bolt, which is a good trade, but unfortunately is punished for it. Alright, now Enam comes in. Does eat the Citrus Berry. Interesting. Would have rather be Boots there, but Draining Kiss comes out, breaks the balloon on the Iron Moth, but now threatening a Sludge Wave as Dragalge going to find his entry point on a U-turn. Who showing up exactly in time in chat to time with the U-turn there. Very fitting. And now Meowscarada going to be the switch into Dragalge. That feels a little bit interesting, but I suppose you don't have much of a better choice considering the Dragonite is parried, Keldeo is also walled by Dragalge, and Fortress obviously does not really trade favorably into Draco Meteors. So I guess I get it. Yeah. And Triple Axle. Okay, yeah. That hits 3 times, which it does. Dragalge is going to go down. And now Enam back in is just going to get Triple Axle at this point. It makes sense to just trade down. It goes for a Desperation Calm Mind, which is going to be met with a switch to Iron Moth. Never letting up the pressure, not risking the Triple Axle miss if you don't have to. And now Tusk comes in, but it's not Speed Booster. It's Scarf. Okay. So Scarf Headlong, but at this point, you can just go, sure, into Keldeo. That works too. Even a crit cannot knock that out, and it's just a pretty free. Just 2 Terra Blasts will finish the job. And there we go. So the Ivy League Cudgels going up 2-0 in the series. And of course, Meowscarada Keldeo finding another win makes me quite happy. Love Terra Keldeo. Mon is a beast. And now we have VGC. So if you need to grab a snack, grab some water, this is the time to do so. Come back in about 5, maybe 6 minutes. We'll be back to the singles content. But in the meantime, let's take a look at this. We have Ursaluna Blood Moon as the main like damage threat. I guess there's a few things for Skipper where you have Raging Bolt and Ursaluna. 2 mons that are very good in, you know, like special attack. Yeah, they can hit quite hard, right? The 2 wall breakers. And then you have some support pieces like the Pincurchin, which will kind of boost the Raging Bolt's damage. Although it doesn't get like a Quark Drive boost because it's not that kind of Paradox Mon. Feel free to take a quick nap while BGC games play. For sure, for sure. Double Terrain, yeah. There is also a Rillaboom on this team, which is quite interesting. So this Sneasler, you don't really know which terrain it's going to be paired with, but it probably is going to be a seed of some kind. Could be Sash as well, but yeah. It looks pretty interesting where the Meowstic could be a Trick Room setter, but it also could be Imprisoned Trick Room trying to shut down the Indeedee on the other side. Depends on if Skipper has a speed advantage or not once you see the game actually unfolding. What else here? So if you look on the other side, there's a little bit of a Rain Core. I assume that's our Shifu Rapid, because otherwise it doesn't make too much sense with the Arch and the Tauren from a draft perspective. VGC is cool because of the weird-ass Terra types. True. I always find it funny how everyone tells me that steel types and fairy types are dicks in VGC, and then you pull up the game and Terra Fairy, Terra Fairy, Terra Fairy, Terra Steel. Like, everyone wants to be a steel type, everyone wants to be a fairy type. But we can't draft those guys. I don't know. Seems a little bit silly. But that's not the first time I've mentioned it. But anyways, we have a rain mode. You have a Trick Room plus Brute Bonnet mode, which I feel like is definitely not exactly the most optimal. I think probably the Ndidi more so designed to pair with Delphox with Expanding Force and go for like a more faster game plan there. Maybe with Tailwind support, something like that. Probably the fairies are bad in VGC. I mean, the ones that are good are pretty good. The Enams and for example, very good Pokemon. Anyways, let's get into the game. So Torn, and we're gonna see an Urshifu. That's an Urshifu Dark. Why are we dark on this team? So I'm just wrong, but like, it can happen. Alright, interesting. So this not being Rapid Strike, definitely a shock to me. But okay, the Dark type is going to be threatening an Oko on Meowstic here. And it will live a Glide, so works out in the end, I guess. So Rillaboom really does not want to be on the field right now in front of a Torn. Could see a Fake Out into the Torn slot, but I don't know how advantageous that is for you because the Urshifu is still threatening an Oko into that left slot on the Meowstic. So overall, a really solid lead from Jay. And we're going to see a Bleak Wind. AV Rillaboom going to take that very easily, but the combination of Bleak Wind into Wicked Blow is going to knock out the Meowstic because it is Life Orb or Shifu. Alright, so Wood Hammer comes out, brings this Urshifu down into Glide range for next turn, but you can always go for a Protect, but the Raging Bolt comes in, so Raging Bolt could potentially pin the Torn with a Thunderclap, but honestly at this point, if I'm the Torn, I'm probably just going to Terra and Bleak Windstorm. And this Urshifu, I might go for a Sucker Punch even. Hold on, you can Sucker Punch the Rillaboom Glide. And we know it's AV, so unless this Rillaboom is switching out, the Sucker does seem like guaranteed value. Why bring a Meowstic if not to click Reflect turn 1? I do not know. I would assume that it's Trick Room. But if it's Trick Room, you're probably going to Fake Out something with the Rillaboom, probably the Urshifu, right? So I don't know. We'll never know, right? It was Culverberry. Maybe just assume that he would live the Bleak Wind into Wicked Blow, but the Life Orb putting it over the edge? Or like Gleamed? Maybe. Maybe. I think a Trick Room makes sense if the last is Blood Moon, right? But okay, let's move on. The Urshifu is going to switch out on the Glide, so no Sucker Punch, interesting enough. Gets a boost on Archaludon, and Torn actually not fearing the Thunderclap at all. Oh, because it lives a Thunderclap. It even lived a Thunderbolt, which is very bulky. But it did miss the Bleak Wind on the Rillaboom, which definitely sucks. But now Archaludon is on the field in a very strong position. Has the Grassy Glide up, or Grassy Terrain up, so it's getting recovery, and it already has a defense boost. Is that an AV Torn? It might be. It might also just be very specially defensive. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because it clicked a Rain Dance, so no AV. We see a Body Press come out, and again, no Thunderclap, which makes sense. U-Turn going to knock out the Torn, and now Raging Bolt going to get a big hit off on this Archaludon as Dragon Pulse comes out, and yeah, the Ursaluna is in the bag, so that does kind of lead me to believe that Meowstic was going for a Trick Room. But no Fake Out is definitely an interesting decision for turn 1. Alright, now Brute Bonnet makes an entry point onto the field. We see a Protect from the Ursaluna, but Archaludon just going to Draco that left slot, Oko the Raging Bolt. And yeah, you have the threat of Grass Knot Brute Bonnet in terrain, so definitely going to Oko this Ursaluna unless it Terras. What's the Terra on this Ursaluna? It's going to be Fairy. So, looking at it, I feel like you can just Flash Cannon the Ursaluna slot and Grass Knot it. I feel like that's a guaranteed kill. Although at the same time, Rillaboom is threatening big damage on the Brute Bonnet with a U-turn, so maybe we could see a Terra Ghost on the Brute Bonnet this turn. I feel like that's a pretty safe option that covers pretty much everything here. We don't see that, but instead we see the Just attack into that 80 Rillaboom slot. And yeah, this works out too. There's lots of ways to skin a cat, as they say, and this was also a winning endgame. And now we go on to game 2. So Jay is up 1-0 in the set. We see Skipper needs to win this one to even up the best of 3. See if there's any adjustments. Dude, my cat? What about your cat? Alright, another Torn or Shifu lead. And this time, Rillaboom is going to be next to a Sneasler. So definitely not going for the Trick Room route this time, as Sneasler's on the field. And now Sneasler and Rillaboom both can carry Fake Out, but I feel like this Rillaboom probably is not Fake Out, by the way that we didn't Fake Out either of the times that was in before. We're going to see a Terra Ghost or Shifu guarding against that double up with Glide into like a close combat to threaten a 2-hit KO on that thing. But Torn is the real threat here, because Bleak Wind looks very, very annoying. But we're going to see a close combat into the Torn slot, which feels weird. Maybe expecting a Terra Steel, which I think is definitely an overreach here, and we're just going to lose 2 Pokemon immediately. And that should be the game, right? I'm looking at it like, what are you supposed to do as Skipper off of that turn 1? Alright, so it goes Raging Bolt and Ursaluna in the back. So what were we expecting? We were expecting the Torn to Terra out of fear of Dire Claw into Glide to it KOing it. I'm guessing that was the vision, but that's just so far-fetched. I feel like you're just in your own head at that point. Here we see a Protect from Urshifu just scouting things out, setting up a Rain Dance. This is going to allow this Archaludon to enter with these Electro Shots available. And there it is. And we actually use up the Blood Moon, right? I'm pretty sure you can't Blood Moon again if you Blood Moon into a Protect, right? Or does it only count successful Blood Moons? Either way, this guy's cooked. We see a Poison Jab immediately, procs a Citrus Berry, but this should be a double up, yeah. Knocks out the Ursaluna. And Urshifu even lives the Thunderbolt, so this is the weakest Raging Bolt of all time. Here we see a Thunderclap, but it's a little bit too late, and a Draco Meteor comes out and knocks out the Raging Bolt. About as clean as you could ask for, I'm not gonna lie, for VGC. And now we see the Cudgels going up 3-0, which is kind of crazy. Do we not like clicking Dire Claw with the Dire Claw Mon? Yeah, a little bit of a question mark for Skipper in both of these games, honestly. But either way, Jay played a pretty solid game and came out with the win. Alright, now back to the singles content. And yeah, now I have Celeste for the Doom Desires and Sugar Gray. Is that the full name of this guy? DT Gray on Smogon. Either way, we'll just call him Gray. So this matchup is going to be a Oras game, Gen 6. And we have big threats like the Lando, the Weavile. But then you look at it like, is that a Mega Altaria? It should be, right? But like a Helios in the big 2025? That feels a little bit archaic. And then on the other side, this looks definitely more like a modern draft with the Gen 6 Zygarde, which is really good value for money, right? For 9 points, you get something with enormous BST. Losing 1,000 arrows is annoying, obviously, but it does have the move pool to just make do with Earthquake. It's not the end of the world. We have a Mega Scizor, it looks like. No, it's a Mega Glalie for sure, with a regular Scizor. We see a Thundy Eye. Mesprit for all the utility, because your ground type and your steel type do not rock, so a Mesprit, really good fit on this sort of teams. And then you see the Tentacruel on both sides, Tentacruel being a very common pick throughout Oras' entire history. But yeah, so I'm looking at this like Thundurus, pretty big threat, could be covered by a Heliolisk with like maybe a Saltfest, but obviously Superpower and Focus Blast do exist, so you have to watch out for that. Weavile, not that big of a threat considering there's a Scizor, but something like a Choice Banded Beat Up would potentially be able to 2-hit KO that thing. Also avoids Helmet because it's not a contact move, because, I don't know, shout out Game Freak. So yeah, maybe if you're able to catch the Scizor with a Beat Up and then successfully call the Roost versus Bullet Punch 50-50 thereafter, could be a pretty strong showing for Celeste. We'll have to find out though. We see a Thundurus lead off into the Landorus, threatening an HP Ice here. But it is going to be Yachi Landorus. Do we respond with a Rock Slide? No. It's just Stealth Rock, which is reasonable enough. Now Jirachi going to pivot in on what's assumed to be another HP Ice, but a really heads up Volt switch there. Calls the switch out, saying, okay, you're not going to sack Lando for free when you have so many pivots into HPIs. Could be a Weavile, could be a Jirachi. So going to call that with a Volt switch, and now Zygarde hits the field against the Jirachi. No item revealed, so no leftovers. And here a Dragon Dance comes out. This could be Yachi Berry on the Zygarde, but Lando coming in. We know this is not Scarf. It's going to go down to a +1 Zygarde hit. E-Speed, more than enough to knock it out from 43. Now Altaria comes in, is going to Mega Evolve, but Gray calls that with an Earthquake, and Cotton Guard comes out, so a very bulky Altaria set. Cotton Guard, you do see from time to time in the Scizor matchup, you'll see Cotton Guard plus either like Return or Hyper Voice and Flamethrower, but the main problem with that is that it's completely walled by Tentacruel. So Gray should see this as a pretty free opportunity to go into said Tentacruel and force out this Altaria with a threat of Sludge Bomb. Okay, the Zygarde has Sludge Wave for no discernible reason. That doesn't do anything to Altaria. And we do see a Roost there. Now we're definitely going to go into Tentacruel. We go Thundurus? Oh, I hate that. Oh no. No, I hate that a lot. It does live, but you're now in Rock's range. Especially since you already revealed Roost now, and like in the Scizor matchup, you definitely need something for that. So Tentacruel does hard wall this Altaria, but instead we're going to sack our entire Thundurus, which I assume has Sludge Wave by the way he's switching it in. And there it is going to knock out the Altaria, because Celeste also does not want to save HP on his Altaria. Sure. I mean, whatever. You could have gone Jirachi there. That was like, if you're going to go Jirachi on an HP Ice earlier, you can go Jirachi on a Sludge Wave, right? But now Helios comes in, reveals that it's Choice Scarf by just coming in on that turn. Gonna go for Dragon Pulse, knock it out. So Scarf Heliolisk. But now this is going to give Scizor a potential setup opportunity or a defog opportunity, depending on what it wants to go for. Given that there's a Weavile on the team, I would assume this is more of a defensive Scizor. Could be Auga Berry, could be Helmet, and I assume a defog is coming here. But no, it's just going to be a U-turn, and that does a lot of damage. So this might be a Choice Banded Scizor instead, relying more on the offensive capabilities to check things like the Altaria and the Weavile. So this does tell us that Gray does not have a good Weavile switch in. That Scizor does not want to come in on a knockoff at all. Probably not even carrying Roost. So this Weavile could be a threat in the endgame, but we do see a U-turn on the Tentacruel into Zygarde, and Zygarde is going to claim a life here, it looks like, with Earthquake. Don't even need to Dragon Dance in this position. Earthquake is just a free KO if you want to take it. Here's a Scald, which could burn. Oh, there's a Dragon Dance, okay. So I guess if you're slower than the Tentacruel, and you know this, maybe it's a bulky Zygarde, you can go for Dragon Dance pretty safely. Or if you calc that this Tentacruel is fast and not bulky, Dragon Dance makes sense. And now Earthquake looks like it might just sweep it. This is Yachi Berry. Helios comes in. Dragon Pulse not going to KO this at all. It's Weakness Policy. Wow, so that's going to knock out the Heliolisk. It's going to knock out like 4 Heliolisks at that point. Now Weavile comes in. Usually you do see Weaviles in the Zygarde matchup EV'd for +3 E-Speed for this very reason. We'll see if Celeste has that exact investment. I guess we'll never know. It's a critical hit, although let's be 100% real with ourselves. I think Gray had this one in the bag. Look at the positioning. And Earthquake obviously going to knock out this Jirachi, even through a Shuka Berry. He's just cooked. No Chillon Weavile. I mean, are you really expected to run Chillon in this matchup? I feel like if you just slot a little bit of defense EVs, it does the same job. And losing out on Choice Band damage versus this team is really, really impactful. So yeah, unlucky crit, but I don't think it mattered at the end of the day. And now, oh my god, the Cudgels are up 4-0. It's looking like an absolute wheelchair. So the best that the Doom Desires can hope for now is a draw. And to put them in a position to maybe draw is going to be Shade. This is win or die, and it's going to be that way for the next 4 games. And his opponent is going to be Feen, which is a Smogon player, more known for standard tiers, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like Shade, definitely more of a draft veteran. And he does have this like Torrenting Lu, like Cyclozar thing, so a little bit of reach and spam, a little bit of, you know, bulk there with the AV Torn, the Ting Lu, And even the Enamorous, right? Very bulky Pokemon that can hit back. Are you tier leader? Yeah, makes sense. But then this team also is able to slot in a Palafin and an Infernape. These are Pokemon that you don't see very often these days. Palafin you do see from time to time on these Torn Tinglu structures as the breaker of choice. But it has been kind of a little bit rare recently, so it's good to see it back. And Infernape, I feel like Infernape is super underexplored right now. It's very cheap for what it provides to a team. So we'll see if he's able to capitalize on these, underpicked mons that do kind of fit quite well on this kind of structure. Nape ate so much in the matchup. That's what I'm saying. It's literally good mon, but people just don't use it. I don't know why. I guess it's hard to fit on some structures, but on this kind of team, it really does fit. On the other side, we do see a Dark Spam kind of angle with the Zarude Roaring Moon option. This is something that you've seen win a seasonal in the past year with, or did they win or did they make finals? Either way, a really high finish in a seasonal recently from Habada. I think that was just a finalist, not a win. But he did get hacked by PZZ, so, I mean, the roster is quite strong. And you do see stuff like the Lando Eye as a breaker. On the special side, you see Metagross, which I feel like Metagross, super good. It's something that I probably overlooked at the beginning of the gen, but as we go deeper into the generation, Metagross has popped up more and more, and it's looked better and better. Then you see a Glimmora, which is, some people really love this thing. I think it's alright, but some people really, really rate Glimmora. And then Rotom Wash, which I feel like is just okay. It does its job. It's like a 9 to 5er in SV. It's never really going to go above and beyond. But let's look at the Terra types here. We see a Stellar Torn, which is quite rare. And we see what I assume to be either a Terrafire Infernape or a Terra Dragon Cyclizar. I don't know if you can afford Torn plus Enam. Can you? I guess I can just fact check that, right? Let's see. Doom Desires. It is Terra Enam and Terra Torn. It's just barely affordable. Alright, fair enough. #1 Glim fan in the history of ever. Literally, that guy is obsessed. Can't believe DPL awards voting still isn't out yet. I mean, what can I say? We like to take our times with our awards. But yeah, so we're gonna see a Terra Water on the Zarude. And that's pretty much it. Steel Enam. Stellar Torn's interesting though, because you do get a boost on all your coverage moves, so Stellar definitely makes me believe that this is either choiced or Nasty Plot 3 attacks. I'd say choiced because Terra Stellar Blast is one of the best ways of checking a Terra Zarude. So if this thing is like any Terra, like Terra Water, a defensive Terra like that, you're always able to have a super effective button into it from a strong Pokemon. You see this often with Keldeo as well in the Zarude matchup, but Torn, it also makes sense to have. Now, Palafin going to lead off, get the form immediately, but the Zarude lead is going to be a little bit challenging to navigate. Probably going to see an Enam switch if I had to guess. No, it's going to be a Torn switch, as Zarude just goes for a Swords Dance, and now we see a Terra Stellar. Oh, Feen, not a very heads-up play. Does go for the Terra Water, which is going to allow the Terra Blast to connect with super effective damage, and it does look like Choice Specs damage. The knockoff is going to show actually heavy duty boots, so this is an offensive Zarude. That is not bulky at all. For a Boots Torn to do that much, Choice Specs would have just OHKO'd it. But sadly, this Torn does not have the sauce. Even Life Orb, I think, would have gotten the KO from that range. Yeah, I feel like if you're going to go Stellar, you should probably have a boosting item, right? Because, like, this is something you want to avoid, right? You get the turn right, and you still die for it. Like, I don't get it. But at least it's low now, so Infernape comes out for the revenge, but you've lost your Torn turn 2. That's really bad. Yeah. Alright, Rotom Wash is going to come out. Take a close combat from a Life Orb Infernape? No, it looks like it's Choice Band. It's some kind of boosting item anyways. Rocky Helmet Rotom. Yeah, and this is not going to 2-hit KO Landers, so free pivot in. Probably going to see Tinglu trade hazards here. Oh, what a nasty plot. So not going to have time to trade hazards. Going to have to force this out. We rock? I guess. If you want rocks up, it's now or never, right? But this Lando is going to take a life here. You don't have a pivot in. Is this Custap? No, it's not Custap. I guess you can check it with the Palafin, but I don't know. You see a Glamora sack? Okay. Sure, sets up T-Spikes. Panda screaming at the screen right now. How could you do this? Terrastellar Blast, eject pack into Infernape? That would be cool. I'm not gonna lie, that would be super cool. But unfortunately not. Charles is now gonna come in on a Psychic Things, and now that looks like it might be in range of Bullet Punch. It'll be close, but maybe not. And gets the spin off. We see a Meteor Mash over Heavy Slam, which is interesting. So the reason for that, like, Heavy Slam's a great move, but into Ting Lu especially, it's not very high base power. But I feel like if you want to move to hit Ting Lu, it should just be like Hammer Armor Body Press, right? I don't really enjoy running Meteor Mash, which is worse versus everything else. Anyways, Infernape is going to come in, go for Flare Blitz, which is a guaranteed kill right now in this game state, pretty much. You're never going to risk your Roaring Moon in that position. And Roaring Moon is now going to come in. If this is Dragon Dance, pretty reasonable opportunity to go for it now. But it's just going to U-turn on the Enam into the Metagross. Fair enough. Now Palafin can switch in on this, but rocks go up. Oh my god, it just freaking died to Choice Band Palafin. Wave Crash is so strong. And now Roaring Moon's going to come in. I feel like this is a pretty free knockoff. You could U-turn. I wouldn't count that completely out because this Enamorous is kind of looming in the back. And with U-turn, you probably expect this to be Scarf or something. Just have something faster than Torn. Like Nasty Plot Torn looks very threatening versus this team. Especially if it's like Terra to beat the Rotom Wash. So we do see the Enamorous pivot in again on another U-turn. So nice, predicts the Enamorous. And now Lando finds his way onto the field. Oh, and we take big chip on the Enamorous. I don't think we can afford to do that. I feel like we needed to sack Infernape or something. Or just like take the HP on our Palafin. Because this is now a completely lost position to a Roaring Moon Outrage, it looks like. Because this is going to go down to Sludge Wave. And now Palafin comes out. It's going to knock this out with a Jet Punch. Okay, we sack our Zarude. That's reasonable enough. I think it doesn't really matter at this point. These two mons are both useless. You have to play through your Roaring Moon. And this is for the series. If Feen wins this, there's the Outrage. And I feel like he's just going to win this one. Unless maybe the Palafin can live a Scarf Outrage. Can it? Jet Punch is going to 2-hit KO. Oh, and the critical hit. I don't know if that mattered. I feel like it didn't. But, yeah. It does matter because of Mach Punch endgames. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Redrink. It was in range of 2 Jet Punches. You mean like right here, this turn? Switching to Infernape? You shouldn't do that. Yeah, like, you're forced to Jet Punch anyways, and it was a roll to live Outrages. You mean like before the rocks? Or like at the end? Hey, just got here who's winning. The Cudgels have just wrapped up the series. Forgot the J-Ricky shoutout, I can't believe it. The audience is winning. The turn he sacked. Should have just Jet Punched. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's going to be the series, right? They've already won 5-0, but we'll play out the rest of the games. May as well use the prep that we have. And we're going to see, this is Burna versus Spink. So 2 Draft League veterans going at it in Gen 7. Let's take a look. Groddle alert. Yep. Undead shaking in his boots. We see a turn 1 Ice Sting from Mega Aerodactyl immediately flinch. So like, LOL. Series is already over, so... There's a Custap head smash. So 1-for-1 trade, but given that it's a Custap lead Nidoking, I assume that's the rocker, which means Burna not going to have rocks the entire game, which is a little bit rough into Torn, but we can make it do. Primarina into Azumarill, the 2 Water Fairies going at it. Looks like Assault Fist Azumarill. So it is going to avoid the 2-hit KO from Moonblast and knock off the Kartana on the switch in really nice. Now Groddle is going to be a pretty hard check to Kartana. It's going to do 14 and it's probably going to get rocks up here. We see a knockout gets rid of the Violite, but oh, a Leech Seed. Interesting. Maybe a Synthesis here? Yeah. So maybe this isn't Rock's Grottle, maybe it's Rocks on Jirachi, and without the Eviolite, this thing's gonna take a lot of damage, and Primarina gonna dodge the Leech Seed, doesn't really matter. I guess you just don't have a grass move on Grottle. I don't know, man. Gonna go down. Zygarde comes in, knocks out the Primarina with ease, and now Metagross gonna hit the field, which is interesting. Definitely a telegraphed Ice Punch, yeah, and Azumarill is going to absorb that one. Go for a Aqua Jet, which is gonna put this Metagross closer to in range of the Zygarde, probably. But the way he's playing it is probably Shuka Berry, or like maybe Weakness Policy, but probably Shuka Berry is my guess. Torrent comes in, goes for a Hurricane. He's playing around the Weakness Policy, and is going to pay the price with 95% on Ice Punch, and then going to pivot to Jirachi on the Bullet Punch, which is going to be successful. But now Shadow Ball comes out. Is it Weakness Policy? And it is. It was one of the two, and Weakness Policy is going to be it. Zygarde coming in, forced to take this +3 Bullet Punch, which it's not going to enjoy. But it's going to have to take 2 Bullet Punches now. Actually, not a Bullet Punch there, which is actually a pretty smart play, because if this was Iapapa Berry Zygarde and you take another Bullet Punch, you get +2, that could be a reverse sweep here. So limiting the Zygarde to +1 by just attacking outright with the Metagross, honestly, I don't hate it. Now your own Zygarde can come in. The way you're playing this, I would assume this to be a Haban Berry, because I don't see a whole lot of other great natural Zygarde checks. So you want your Zygarde to beat their Zygarde. Oh, it's just Scarf Zygarde. So Scarf Jolly Zygarde going to outspeed pretty much any Dragon Dance Zygarde variant. And that's actually going to wrap up this endgame. So the Zygarde does beat the Zygarde, but just not the way I expected. Alright, fair enough. Really well played game. Pretty clean from Burna. I mean, he's been pounding this whole season, right? Really strong player. I said that in the power rankings, that this guy definitely going to tear up the competition in Gen 7. Burna is so good. So true. Scarvin just win the tie. There's no way that was a tie. Let me tell you. There's no way. Alright, now we have Missouri versus Auga. Richard the Spiritomb will save the Soul Society. That's a crazy sentence. Alright, this is going to be back to Gen 9. Alright, this is pretty interesting. We see a Tusk Zapdos kind of build. You do see Zapdos quite a lot on Tusk builds for a couple of reasons, right? Tusk kind of just demolishes Terra Electric guys, which are the main weakness of Zapdos. You can always Terra Electric and set up in front of it. And especially Zapdos Tinkaton teams, like that problem is magnified twice, because Tinkaton can no longer T-Wave. So yeah, that weakness is patched up by the Great Tusk. The rest of this is pretty standard, right? The Ogrepon Hearthflame as the breaker, Gren as the speed guy, and then the Okidoki as like this kind of like check to a bunch of things, a resist to a lot of types that the rest of the team does not resist. Pretty standard looking build. On the other side, we see a more interesting build where it's like you have Valiant and Cinderace as speed options. Then like a lot of unorthodox mons, like the Tentacruel is like pretty reasonably popular, but then Spiritomb, Mew, a bit less so. You do see a Terra Gliscor, which is quite a strong setup option. Also pretty strong paired with Terra Mew. We've seen that quite a lot as a combination. Even in other DFL rosters, I believe. So yeah. Let's take a look. We do see a Terra Electric Mew, which makes sense into the Zapdos and the Tinkaton. Could be a Mental Herb to block the Tinkaton Encore. You set up on pretty much any variant of Zapdos or Tinkaton. And Mew being a natural Psychic type, the Great Tusk does not really deter that at all. So you're able to go Terra Electric pretty freely there. Then Terra Dragon on the Gliscor is there as a failsafe against stuff like the Battle Bond Gren, the Hearthflame. You're also able to somewhat check the Zapdos, although that doesn't really change from its base typing. So yeah, it's mostly just for these two guys. And then on the other side, we see a Terra Psychic Greninja. Interesting enough. And then we see a Terra Ghost Okidoki paired alongside it. So Terra Psychic is interesting. So that's there, I would assume, as a Battle Bond Gren, trying to prevent Vacuum Wave from being a threat. But at the same time, you're opening up Sucker Punch as a potential revenge kill from Cinderace. So maybe this is Water Shuriken to not only, you know, with Terra Psychic beat the Vacuum Waivers, but also the Shuriken will be able to knock out the Cinderace before it goes for the Sucker Punch. So that could be a potential play. Let's go ahead and see. Cinderace going to lead off into the Greninja. Obviously forced out by that. And we see a U-turn immediately, but no Protean. So it is Battle Bond. Now the Ogerpon going to find its way onto the field and go for a Trailblaze on the switch to Cinderace. Do we have a follow-up with a Stomping Tantrum or something to knock this out? We do have the Stomping Tantrum, but it hits into a Gliscor. So Toxcorp activated, and now we see a Terra Dragon immediately able to resist that Ivy Cudgel. Go for a Toxic. And this Gliscor will remain healthy, but you do remove that Terra Electric option from that Mew. So that Mew no longer going to have the Terra option to set up in front of Zapdos and Tinkaton completely freely. Now Zapdos going to find its way on the field. 75% from Hurricane. That's an offensive Zapdos for sure. Could be Specs into Spadef Gliscor. Not really sure. You have to know the investment of one guy to figure out the other. But yeah, looks like another Hurricane is going to come out as Tentacruel going to pivot in. Takes 35. So that's interesting. Is this Assault Vest Tentacruel? That's the only way that damage makes sense to me. And we see a flip turn. I mean, AV Tentacruel does make sense into the Greninja. And if you're able to... Oh, whoa. We're just sacking the Tinkaton there. I guess you don't have a great Pyro Ball switch in at this point. But, yeah, so Tinkaton goes down. Rocks do not go up. Alright, fair enough. Now the Gren is going to come in afterwards, force out the Cinderace, and Mew going to be the switch into Gren on the Hydro Pump. I think it has Dark Pulse. You can just go for that, but no, it's going to be a U-turn. So either doesn't have Dark Pulse or just not willing to risk the Culver Berry. And a Scale Shot comes out onto the Ogerpon, so this is going to 2-hit KO the Ogre. Gets 5 hits, so likely loaded dice. And another Scale Shot, so we're going to get +2 speed, which felt a little bit unnecessary. You already outspeed the whole roster. But now Okidoki comes in, takes the Earthquake. So no Psychic move on the Mew? That's strange. Why did that work? Okay, Mew with Scale Shot. Axel Last for the Zapdos? Sure, sure. You really don't have a Psychic move into Tusk and Okidoki? You sure? If we're scared of Terra, the Psychic move is still stronger than Earthquake, no matter what. So, like, we just don't have it. That's crazy to me. Actually, very slow on the Mew, so a Scarf Tusk or Dog could outspeed. Does Icicle Spear? Okay, sure. But no Psychic is crazy to me. Moonblast gonna come out, knocks out the Okidoki, and now Gren gonna come in, threatening the Hydro Pump, or, you know, the Terra Psychic Extra Sensory. Oh, we're running Terra Blast for no reason, which is a worse move than Extra Sensory. Love that. Folks, it's DFL. Nobody said anything in the prep channel. It's physical. So, okay, physical to get through the Tentacruel, but we still have Hydro Pump? Okay, dude. It really is DFL out here. We're forced out? Bro. You can't kill a 50% Gliscor? Okay, sure. Another Protect, another Hurricane. So Hurricane should claim something if it connects here. Oh, we switch! On the Tentacruel? Okay, we save HP on the Zapdos, so it works out. Now Balloon Spiritomb comes in, takes a Hydro Pump. It's gonna knock out this Gren with Poltergeist. Dude, this is a DFL game for sure. Sneak, not gonna KO the Zapdos. Now Tusk in, will live one from a Cinderace, can go for a spin. Gonna outspeed the next turn. We swap Gliscor is crazy. That's crazy, no? Because now we don't have an out, right? This just dies? Oh, it lives? Okay, nah, this is crazy. That plays correct. I've seen enough Goodbye Worlds. You and me both, buddy. You sack Incinerate, then Tuscan Zapdos kills Gliscor. I think if I'm Missouri Kip, I don't know, maybe that first Earth or Headlong is just a massive high roll. But it does feel like you were saved by rolls there. And I feel like your out maybe would have been sack Cinderace and then Protect with Gliscor, KO the Tusk. How healthy was the Tusk? Was that 23? Let's see. This is the position. You're at 74. You sack a Cinderace. Gliscor comes in. You protect once. You're at 86. You Earthquake once. You take 50. And then you protect, and you have to hope for a Hurricane dodge at that point. I think it's Hurricane dodge odds. So maybe the roll is better than that. But like, that just looks so dire, right? 50. And then at 49 you live. So maybe Mineral Max roll. I don't know. Worked out. What can I say? Then the last game of this series is going to be Speeds versus Amal. Alright, this is going to be Gen 8. That game was crazy. I feel like there was probably cleaner ways to go about it though. Like, surely. I got choked then. My thought process was use Zen with Cinder and Headlong had like a 75% roll to kill. But I should have just taken it. I don't know, I feel like this here, right? You kill the Valiant with Gren. This forces the Terra and all. Can you not just take your chip on Gliscor? Your +1 Hydro Pump. We saw a Zapdos did 75 with Hurricane. Gren is like... Gren Hydro Pump should be stronger than that or about similar. Wait, no, it's Dragon, so it resists Hydro Pump. So what's your last move? Yeah, what was Gren's last move? Shuriken? So it was Shuriken for the Cinderace. That also begs the question, why are we physical Terra Blast with like our strongest moves being special? I get you want to get through Tentacruel, but like, I don't know. It does feel like there's better ways to go about that. So we just allow this Gliscor to heal up by doing this. And now the Gliscor HP comes into effect here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just work here. Surely just Terra Blast for damage then, right? I feel like that is probably correct. I don't know, it's a little bit rough. Tentacruel has been treated unfairly by this channel. Has it? Has it? I don't know, I did show that one game of Cave Creep pounding with Tentacruel, so I feel like that's a good balance, right? Anyway, Speeds versus Amal, last game of the series, which has already been decided, but we have one more series to look at, and that one is a Giga Banger. So let's get through this one first. We see Gen 8 Zapdos versus Azumarill lead. Immediate Protect to scout out what the Zapdos wants to do. It is Pressure, which does lend itself to like sub-toxic sets, so this Toxic, not the biggest shock in the world, especially considering you have a Lando and a Latios and an Eldegoss. Like all three of these, yeah, Eldegoss not so much because it does get Hurricane this gen, but able to switch in pretty freely. Now Discharge comes out and Azumarill goes for a Toxic itself. Now probably just going to see another Protect from this Azumarill, rack up some Toxic chip on the Zapdos. This game was a banger, looking forward to it. Alright, now we're going to see a pivot out into the Latios, makes sense. Catches that with a Toxic. Now Tangrowth going to be the switch in on a Mystical Fire, but that's AV Tangrowth, does not care. It just shrugs that off like a beast. Now it's a pretty free knockoff here to remove an item, so Eldegoss is going to lose its Heavy Duty Boots. And now a Pollen Puff comes out for a crisp 19%. on the double knock, which is a reasonable play. You can regen it off even if it doesn't work out. Now we're going to go into the Zapdos, get that regen on Tangrowth, tanks the Pollen Puff. Could go for a Roost here as the Zapdos, keep it healthy. Eldegoss not really threatening big damage, and that's exactly what we go for as Latios comes in, but this Latios, as we have shown, cannot beat Tangrowth to save its life. So we're going to see a double to Drapion on the Tangrowth, which is a really smart play. Now the T-Spike's going to go up as the Tangrowth stays in, goes for an Earthquake, but the Sugar Berry going to limit that only to 22%. Oh, and this Toxic is pretty big, because now this Tangrowth cannot really sit there and slug it out versus things, because it will be taking chip turn to turn, even if you are able to remove that T-Spike, doesn't matter. Zapdos going to pivot in, but Eldegoss is in. Gonna pivot to Latios, pretty safe play, and there's a Defog. Alright, so Defog Zapdos, but we've spread a little bit of Toxic on both teams. Now Tangrowth gonna come in on this Mystical Fire. This is still favorable for Amal, because you have regen and the Latios doesn't, so Latios is taking chip, you're not. Eldegoss gonna switch in. A nice double to Necrozma, but yeah, Stealth Arc's gonna go up as Leech Seed misses, unfortunate. Now Tangrowth gonna come in on a Rapid Spin, so no harm, no foul. No real progress made by either side. Now Necrozma gonna come in again on the Pollen Puff. That's not doing anything. Can just set up rocks again. Or go for a Photon Geyser, but this is not doing any type of damage. Yeah, so Eldegoss able to sit on a lot of these guys. Another Leech Seed comes out, but Necrozma just gonna take it as an opportunity to heal up. Worth noting, this Eldegoss is faster than the Necrozma, which is not something you see every day. Alright. Now Tangrowth, free pivot, just take a PP point, why not? Now Zapdos gonna pivot in, probably just Roost this next turn. As a spin up man. That's why you're here. Keep me honest. You right, you right. Look, it's past my bedtime, what can I say? Here's a Dragon Pulse into the Tangrowth, not gonna do anything. Is Tangrowth putting in a lot of work here. Can just go for another knock here. And does get it on the Latios, which those leftovers being gone is a big deal. Now Tangrowth can just switch out into Klefki, no real problem, and rest Latios. That's a new one. So it looks like this Latios able to 1v1 this Tangrowth long term. So a big reveal there. Does this feel like a Who game? It does, honestly. Oh, this Whirlwind is crazy, no? That's a sub Klefki getting forced out by Drapion. It's 12:40 in the afternoon. Look, man, look, man. Okay, past few days, I've been waking up at like 5, 6 a.m. I'm not even gonna lie. So I've been up, but yeah, Necrozma gonna be forced in. Another Toxic is spread by this Drapion. It is gonna go down, so no more T-Spikes, but you have 3 Pokemon Toxic and the Klefki chipped. I'd call that good value from the Drapion. And it's Sleep Talk Latios, which is going to be a really big problem for Amal. It looks like it beats everything 1v1. Oh, but Payback! Wow. So Payback is going to 3-hit KO this Latios, but the sleep turns have already been burned, so Latios can wake up, go for a Mystical Fire here, no problem. And Urshifu going to take advantage of that fact and come in, but Latios just goes for a rest, which I feel like was probably a little bit unforced. You didn't need to rest that turn, could have done that the next time, but no problem. Wake up at 5 a.m., sleep at 2 p.m. No, no, no. I actually have to do a bunch of things today. I have a gig at 3 o'clock, and then I have a choir rehearsal after that until like 9:30. So I won't be back until at least 10. So it's gonna be a long day, but that's completely fine. Love that stuff. Urshifu comes in, Eldegoss going to be the response. Gonna get U-turned on, which mostly regenable, so no problem. I was thinking, what if we play the Blunder Tournament music in background while you cover these games? If you have the link to that, we can pull that up for the last few games. Send me the link on Discord if you can find that. I'm assuming it's not copyrighted. Can we play Diet Tights Rap instead? Palafin, we back again, we lead him with the flip turn return to the party. He's the hero, not the interloper. Yep, that was me on there. Will the gig be uploaded, please? No. I'm not live streaming that, you know? So he's sub SD Garchomp is going to 1v1 this Landorus, it looks like. Okay, we did need a crit to get there. Oh no, the Citrus Berry, you would have 1v1 this Landorus anyways, but you don't have to take an extra Earthquake, which is a pretty important thing. Oh, but the Jirachi is Scarf Draco Meteor. Oh my god. Oh my god. Brutal reveal. And now Speeds is back into the game. Azumarill going to come in on what is assumed to be a U-turn, but turns out to be a close combat instead. Azu just going to get 2-hit KO'd by that, but you can just go to a Latios now. Oh, but that's a 3-hit KO. Is Amal willing to risk the Sleep Talk rolls? Looks like he's not. Yeah, not willing to do that. And now, yeah, Mystical Fire was drawn, which would have been fine for the Urshifu, but now another Sleep Talk pulls a rest, but this doesn't really matter, as you can just rest up this turn if you want to, as the Latios. And there it is. So Amal gonna save his Tangrowth, but Azumarill now gonna be forced to sack. Oh, but we don't CC. I guess U-turn is fair enough there. As Zapdos comes in, probably gonna see a Protect here, just get some more Toxic Chip on this guy. And now do we see another Latios come in? There's no reason to sack Azumarill. It's pretty useful sack fodder. And yeah, the Latios does come in. Probably just gonna see a Sleep Talk in front of this Tangrowth. No, we see a switch to Eldegoss instead. I mean, that's fine too. I don't mind that play at all. Get your regen back, waste a turn of Tangrowth, get some Toxic Chip on it, and go for a Leech Seed, which is unblockable unless the Tangrowth wants to stay in and die to Toxic. So really free Leech Seed there. And now we see a switch to Latios. Nice double to Tangrowth though, forces that out. And payback on the Azumarill. This is actually pretty smart, because now you have a free Protect opportunity to get the leftovers flowing. But Amal gonna switch into Rocky Helmet Necrozma, and Speeds makes an aggressive play rough play. Drop the link in DPL general chat. Yo, that is not DMing me, but sure. Okay. Alright. So Necrozma gets some chip on Azumarill, which is pretty important. It's now... Is that in range of U-turn? We saw a U-turn on this a few turns ago. Yeah, 11%. So it's in range of Urshifu U-turn. This Urshifu with a Choice Scarf is looking like a pretty big threat in the endgame. Latios going to come in as those rocks go up, but a spin shouldn't be too difficult to get off. Here's a Sleep Talk, and now with one Sleep Turn burnt, you can just stay in with Latios, but Speeds is not interested, wants to go Eldegoss and get that spin off. It's a priority, which makes sense. There's the spin, and this is not going to be static Zapdos, so no harm in going for that. Now a Leech Seed comes out, risks the Toxic on Eldegoss. That makes me believe this thing might be aromatherapy or something. Regardless, we're not going to find out. As Latios comes in, goes for the other Sleep Talk, gets a Dragon Pulse into the Tangrowth, takes the payback, but now we're threatening a KO with the Mystical Fire. Gonna force a switch out into the Urshifu. Do we predict that? Again, Amal goes, or Speeds goes for the preemptive rest. I don't think that's correct. I think you need to be taking your chip on this Urshifu, because a Latios at like 55% is still able to come in on Tangrowth, come in on Zapdos, come in on Klefki even come in on Necrozma. It walls all of these guys, but you don't need to be full HP for that. You can be at 55, right? So just take your chip on Urshifu, man. It's finding way too many free turns, and now your Latios takes the U-turn. I don't think you can afford that. You have a full HP Eldegoss, and now you have an extra Sleep Turn to burn. Here's a Urshifu coming in. Eldegoss probably should just go for a Leech Seed here. Yeah, but this pressure is adding up. Only 7 Leech Seeds left. I'm gonna switch to Tangrowth. This regen plus pressure really doing a lot of damage to Speeds' PP numbers. Alright, we're switching around even more. Yeah. Eventually the Zapdos will be forced to roost, and that's when you're gonna be able to get your second Sleep Talk off with the Latios. So eventually we'll be fine, but Speed's really putting himself in difficult positions for no reason. I don't like that. And here we get our second Sleep Talk off, pretty important. Pulls the rest, but like this Tangrowth is living forever. Now Eldegoss comes in. Yeah, makes sense. Oh, the double to Latios is kind of crazy. That was a nice play. I like that a lot. Now you can get your rest off for free. You're no longer in range of Tangrowth. Or just go for a Mystical Fire. Sure. I mean, I don't know why we're attacking at 43 when we were unwilling to attack at 55. Just pointing that out there, it is DFL. Now Eldegoss's going to come in on the close combat. That's going to do way too much damage, and now Urshifu has finally found a position where it can safely go for a KO. Yeah, and Latios not being at full is now a problem. Funny enough. Why didn't he protect? It's an Urshifu. Now finally get the rest off, but Payback going to bring this thing very low already. And yeah, this is looking a little bit cooked for Spees. Amal able to play the long game. And then, oh, this crit U-turn going to be the nail in the coffin, it looks like. Never mind, it's Synthesis last, so Eldegoss lives to fight another day. The double to Zapdos is interesting. I don't think Zapdos should be on the field very much here. I feel like you should try to avoid that if you can. This Eldegoss has revealed no grass move, so you can always make the Urshifu pivot on it. And then just go for another U-turn, force the Synthesis out into Tangrowth, pivot between those two. Are we having a pizza party for finals? We might not. I don't know. Oh, and gets the knockoff on Jirachi. I feel like that's probably okay. Oh, and then takes the Assault Vest from Tangrowth. That could be good for the Latios. Oh, Steel Beam gonna trade for the Tangrowth. Okay, Latios is starting to look a little bit more of a threat. Because looking at it, Latios beats 3 out of these 4 Pokemon pretty easily. But this Urshifu is the main problem. Okay, doesn't get a poison on that Poison Jab. Goes for it again, fishing for it. Like, this Eldegoss doesn't have a grass move, which is just really a problem here for Spees. Now a double to Latios on the Klefki. We have to hope this Klefki does not have a way to hit the Latios. We see a Mystical Fire being pulled. It's Foul Play, which only does 30%. So we are able to get off our rest here. This is the most crackhead game I've ever seen this entire series, in fact. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. A sub here, the sub definitely feels wrong, right? Like, that can't be correct. Why are we subbing? We're just allowing the Latios to wake up. What is the set? What in the Amal? So I assume this is just intending to have everything toxic by Zapdos, which is weird. Okay, Necrozma going to take this Mystical Fire. Is going to get 2-hit KO'd. But we go for the rest instead, which makes sense. You're able to burn the rest turn as well, so this is a really nice rest. The rocks being up doesn't matter at this point. Now Urshifu comes in, but it can't kill the Latios in one, so forced to U-turn into something that doesn't beat Latios. Pulls the Dragon Pulse, gets a crit. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. Now this Latios has to rest, I think. So Amal makes a really nice play into Urshifu, but finally Speeds pulls the trigger and calls the switch out with the Dragon Pulse. Finally, I've been waiting all game for him to do that. But at this point, the Latios is really weak. So Eldegoss is going to be forced to take this U-turn, but if Poison Jab kills the Latios, it's a good endgame for Amal to just click it. So maybe a bit of a 50-50, depending on rolls and stuff. I feel like Poison Jab doesn't kill this. Who would only dream a game this long? Yeah, true. So Eldegoss switching in on a P-Jab is a loss, but Latios staying in on a U-turn is also a loss. So a little bit of a 50-50 here. I don't know if it's... it feels definitely favored for Amal still. We see a switch. Do we see a Poison Jab? We see a U-turn, so Speed's still in the game. Klefki comes in, but we can't switch into our Latios at this point. We do switch into Latios. It's in range of Foul Play. We sub! Ah! Dude. This game is not real. We don't rest! Why didn't we rest? Oh my god! Chat, it's DFL. Why didn't he rest? Oh my god. Bro. I have no words for that. This is cooked. Alright. Swap to Lottie was kind of forced there, wasn't it? Okay, the switch is... Okay, if you're predicting sub, sure. And sub is there to prevent Eldegoss from leech seeding you. But as Amal, I'm okay getting leeched. That doesn't matter to me because I can just, you know, switch, you know? There's only 4 leech seeds left. Yeah, this is maybe a closer endgame. I feel like Amal should have sequences that win, with Lottie Eldegoss as the last 2 Pokemon. Because that Urshifu is such a massive threat in the endgame. But this Latios definitely could have soloed. 106 turns, is that a record? Probably not even close, to be honest. I've seen some long games. But let's look at this second series, alright? This is going to be the, what is it, the Tapu Bulus? Or Tapu Bulin, right? Yeah, Tapu Bulin, which is going to be DJ Sen's team versus, what is it called? The Ballad of Dragons, which Cherry is going to be on for this game. For DFL, maybe, I don't know. I have not watched a lot of DFL games, so... Do my games look reasonable after watching DFL? Virgie, your games always look reasonable. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, even if it's me. Alright, so, next series, alright. Who is going to be facing the Ivy League Cudgels in the finals? We get to find out now. Right, so on the Bulu side, we're going to see a Terra Water Urshifu. And then on the other side, we're going to see Terra Grass Goldango and Terra Rock Ogerpon. Alright, let's get into the game. We're going to see a Sinistcha lead off into the Ogerpon as spikes go up. So we see a Spikes lead Ogerpon, but Trick Room comes out, which looks like it's not going to 2-hit KO the Ogerpon, but with the Spadef drop, it is going to. We get an Encore off, which I guess is predicting a nasty plot, but feels a little bit ambitious. DJ was a sub for this game. He had like a day and a half to prep. That's plenty of time. That's not an excuse. Right. Goldango in on the locked energy ball. That still does a lot of damage. Gets a drop, which doesn't really matter, to be honest. Another drop, so 3 drops in a row. It actually lives the Shadow Ball, gets a weakness policy. Okay, now something's gotta die, and it's gonna be the Ogerpon. What are the odds of that one? Now Goldango finds its way back in, knocks out the Sinistcha, but it has done quite a lot of work. Knocks out the Ogerpon, gets big chip on the Goldango in exchange for his Spike Up. Sure. Now Rotom Fan comes out. I assume a T-Bolt knocks out this Goldango, otherwise you would go to something else. Gets slower than Goldango and goes for a Light Screen. Okay, fair enough. And then now goes for a Volt Switch on the switch to Electros. Right, catches that. Now Garchomp going to be the switch into Electros? I feel like usually that's the other way around. And it's not loaded dice Garchomp, so it is going to get Super Fang down. Now we're going to switch to Valiant, which is going to be Speed Booster. Oh, it's Special Attack Booster. That's going to be slower than Garchomp, take a big hit. But Moonblast is going to knock it... Doesn't knock it out. But Special Attack Booster almost always runs Vacuum Wave, especially versus Darkrai, so I'd expect a Vacuum Wave here. There it is, we're fine. Alright, some big HP trades happening here. Now, Jirachi is going to find its way on the field. Now, we know this Valiant being Special Attack Booster has to be Modest Nature. So, Modest Valiant is still faster than Jirachi, though. So, maybe it's Scarf Jirachi. It is Scarf Jirachi. But it's going to miss and get close combated by Special Booster Valiant? I don't know why we're close combat. Like, is there something on the bench that calls for a close combat? Is Chomp broken or Valiant horrible? Both are true, yep. I would expect like a Shadow Ball in this kind of set, right? Regardless, that's not the world we live in. Folks, this is DFL, and because our Goldango is Terrad, we don't have a great Zen Headbutt switch in, so Deox is going to be forced to be the one to take those hits. It takes 27, which is a reasonable amount. And now knocks off the Rotom Fan's boots is Life Orb Deoxys, so that's going to be picking up a KO here. True, Vergi. So true. Bastiodon benched. Ah yes, the rare Bastiodon. Okay, we've just shown Scarf Darkrai, and yeah, that's a big threat. But we have a full HP Tentacruel. Why did we sack our Deoxys? I don't know, man. Electros comes in, gets flinched. Alright, goes down. We have a Tentacruel, guys. We can go Tentacruel whenever we want. Or we could have gone Valiant the prior turn, right? I don't know, man. Now Tentacruel comes in as the Urshifu check, as we Aqua Jet for the love of the game. Now Surging Strikes is going to 2-hit KO from that range, it looks like. Or close to it, maybe not. Looks like it's a roll, but Sludge Bomb does get the poison, okay.